Hello and welcome. I'm Excellite and this is my channel. Today we're going to talk about a disappearance. A case where a child went missing with no trace. Before we get started, if you would please like this video and share with people you know that have similar interests. And if you'd like to subscribe, that would be great too. All right, let's go. The morning of June 6th, 1984 started like any other for the Stringfellow family on their farm in Greenville, Alabama. Greenville is the county seat of Butler County, and in 1984 it had a population of about 7,600 people. Greenville seemed like an ideal, quiet place to raise a family. Betty woke up early because she had to be at the Waffle House restaurant by 7 a.m. sharp for the start of her shift. After she got ready, she quietly left the house. She did not want to wake her 12-year-old daughter, Sherry, who was sleeping on the couch after giving up her bed to her stepdad's aunt who was in town visiting for the week. Shortly after 9 a.m., Sherry noticed that her stepdad, Raymond, was backing his red pickup truck down the driveway. She raced out of the house, her shoes were in her hands, and she asked him if she could go with him into town. At around 9:30 a.m., the two of them stopped at the First National Bank so that Raymond could fill some paperwork out. Sherry said that she was thirsty, so Raymond gave his stepdaughter a dollar bill and told her to go buy herself a drink at the Chevron gas station across the street. Witnesses saw Sherry walking across the parking lot by the General Telephone Building and Jernigan's Furniture Store on her way to the gas station. 15 minutes later, Raymond was done at the bank, so he went out to his truck, and he was surprised that Sherry was not there waiting for him. 15, 20, 25 more minutes passed with no sign of Sherry, and panic started. Raymond called Betty at the Waffle House to see if Sherry had stopped by for a visit. Betty said no, that the last time she'd seen her daughter, she was sound asleep on the couch. Raymond checked the obvious places for his stepdaughter, the Chevron, but she wasn't there. He also asked around the tractor shop and the feed store. Sherry's nickname was the Little Farmer. She had a reason for that. She loved everything to do with farming, so it was not unusual for her to hang out at those kind of stores. But they hadn't seen Sherry. The 12-year-old girl was reported missing at 11:46 a.m. Before long, a massive search effort was underway. Volunteers combed the city and the surrounding areas. An aerial search was even conducted by Crenshaw Flying Services. Family, friends, and volunteers printed off countless missing persons posters and plastered them across the city and the neighboring towns. Despite all of this, Sherry has never been seen again. Sherry is a Caucasian female with brown hair and brown eyes. When she disappeared in 1984, she was 5 feet 4 inches tall, and she weighed between 100 and 120 pounds. She had 2 distinguishing marks. One was a 2-inch scar on her abdomen, and another one was a 1-inch scar on her back near her shoulder. Sherry was last seen wearing a long-sleeved red plaid flannel shirt, light blue jeans, gray tennis shoes with a Velcro fastening, and a watch with a black band. So could Sherry have run away from home? Sherry's family thinks that that is impossible. She wasn't the kind of child that was able to do something like that. But as heartbreaking as it is to think about this, it's not uncommon for children to run away. In fact, in 1984, the Department of Health and Human Services reported to Congress that the number of runaway children in the United States was more than 1 million in 1984. But was Sherry one of those millions of runaways? Well, her mother, Betty, has always insisted that her daughter was a happy, content child who had no significant issues. She said that Sherry had no reason to leave home. Sherry was excited about the plans she had made for later in the day. And she was going to go home and watch her favorite TV show and visit with her grandmother. By all accounts, Sherry was the type of child who usually did what she was told, and she did not take any of her belongings with her when she went into town. She had nothing. No clothing, no money, nothing. Even more, she has never once contacted her family in the decades that she'd been gone. And they think that in the unlikely event that she ran away for some reason, that a 12-year-old girl, their 12-year-old girl, would have called to come home. Could Sherry have been abducted by a stranger? Well, it's possible. As we well know, stranger abductions are rare. But she could have been kidnapped by someone as she walked across the parking lot to go buy a drink. It doesn't take long to grab a person and pull them into your vehicle. Sherry also could have been snatched from the Chevron station. Sherry's mom has pointed out that in 1984, vending machines did not give you change. Maybe Sherry approached a stranger at the gas station to ask for change, and the person took advantage of the opportunity and took her. There were 3 unconfirmed sightings of Sherry by 3 different people that all support the stranger abduction theory. All of the alleged sightings place Sherry with a man who looked to be around 50 years old, was 5 feet 8 inches tall. They said he had a husky build and a weathered complexion. One of the witnesses reported that they heard the young girl call the man BJ. Disturbingly, all 3 witnesses told the authorities that the person they believed was Sherry appeared to be upset, crying, disheveled, and dazed. Could Sherry have been killed by someone she knew? It's possible. It's no surprise that Raymond, Sherry's stepdad, was the very first person questioned by police. He was also the last person to see her, after all. And, let's face it, he was the stepfather. And in many, many cases of child death, the boyfriend, the stepfather, or even the girlfriend, are the people who commit the most heinous crimes. Raymond cooperated with the authorities and answered all of their questions. But when they asked him to take a polygraph test, he refused. Regardless, the police have said that he was never a suspect in the case. And seeing as how he went into the bank and people saw her alone walking to the gas station, unless something did happen after that, then it seems unlikely that it would be him, but you really never know. His wife, Betty, was positive that Raymond would not harm his stepdaughter. She said that he never got over the fact that Sherry was with him when she vanished. Just before Raymond died in April of 2003, he told his wife from his hospital bed, "Betty, I wish I could go get Sherry and bring her home to you, but I can't, because I don't know where she is." If Raymond was not involved in Sherry's disappearance, could it be someone else that she knew? Well, in 2018, the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina said that she had stayed with her stepsister and her stepsister's husband, well, I say that 3 times, in a St. Stephen area near Beetaw Road back in the summer of 1983. The authorities had received a tip that Sherry was spotted in the same area after she was reported missing in 1984. Were these family members somehow involved in her disappearance? And if so, did they take her against her will, or had she actually run away from home and sought shelter in South Carolina for some reason? And if so, how did she get there? In 2019, there was a very startling post on the Sherry Lynn Marler Still Missing Facebook page. A woman named Ryan Welch Anderson said that her and a group of volunteers had been searching tirelessly for years to find out what had happened to Sherry. They said that they found evidence that they refused to keep to themselves any longer. And this is what part of the post reads. Sherry Marler was murdered and dismembered by someone she knew very well, not her stepfather, and thrown into a hog pen in Butler County. We believe the person who murdered her is deceased. We strongly suspect that there were 1 or 2 other people there at the time of her death, and that they are also deceased. We strongly suspect she was pregnant at the time. We believe she was a victim of multiple family-based incest pedophilia rings that involved people from both Butler and Crenshaw counties. Ryan said that they unearthed a pig farm that was functional in 1984, but had since been abandoned and reclaimed by nature. The group says that they have a video footage of 2 separate cadaver dog teams confirming hits on human remains in the area. During their excavation, the group discovered clothing that was sent in for DNA testing. The Greenville Police Department said no DNA evidence was found on the material, and the fabric looks kind of like a burlap sack, but who knows if they had changed her clothing. Ryan also stated that a surviving family member of the person she thinks murdered Sherry allowed her to look through a box of old photos. Some of the photos showed the pig farm up and running, and one photo in particular shocked Ryan. It was a photo of a pig standing by what she thinks is a severed human head that had not yet decomposed. Ryan says she took the picture of the photo with her phone. The original photo was reportedly seized from the family member by a law enforcement officer and turned over to the FBI. However, when nothing happened with the case, Ryan called the FBI and says that she was told they had never received any such photo. It's hard to tell exactly what it is in the photo, and it could be one of those situations where maybe the picture looks like something, but it's really not. I think in a lot of photos, people would call this a ghost's face. You go ahead and look and see what you think. Whether or not Ryan and this group of researchers had actually found evidence of Sherry still remains to be seen. But their dedication to the case and to finding answers for Sherry's loved ones seems to be very real. Sherry was a very fun-loving tomboy who loved farming and being outside and listening to Kenny Rogers. She had an adventurous spirit and could not wait to trade in her moped for a 3-wheeler on her 13th birthday. Sherry's loved ones have had to live decades without any answers. Every day, her mother has had to face the horrible truth that her daughter is still missing, and her stepfather died without ever finding out what happened to Sherry. Somehow, Betty still manages to find some solace. She said Sherry was always a happy little girl, and that's what I remember the most, even in my dreams. Betty has fought hard to keep the memory of her daughter alive, and in 2010, she opened a restaurant called the Enterprise Restaurant on the 26th anniversary of Sherry's disappearance. The sign on the street said that the restaurant was opened in honor and memory of Sherry Lynn Marler. Betty explained, "We want to honor her memory, but we want to heighten people's awareness of the reality of children missing every day in this country." If you have any information on this case, please contact the Greenville Police Department at 334-382-7461, or, of course, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST, which is 1-800-843-5678. And again, thank you for coming to my channel. Good night.